everybody.
And welcome to the Just in Time Genie this week, which is all about cultural differences, as promised.
Yes. So, and I think it's great that we have people engaging. And one of the big things was the challenge of working with virtual teams. And last week we talked a little bit about building trust and a team identity. And this week we're going to talk about the challenges of cultural differences. And what we mean by that, there's actually two different things. So you have the cultural differences that have to do with a person's ethnicity and their beliefs and where they're coming from. And then there's also the culture having to do with workplace culture. So with workplace culture, a lot of times when someone has come from another company and now they're starting new with a new company, they have to get acclimated. Every company does things a little bit differently. And those challenges are a bit compounded when now you're moving into a virtual world. I can tell you from one of my experiences, I had come from an environment that I would say was pretty relaxed. I mean, we were, for the most part, independent contributors. There weren't tons of meetings. You knew what you had to do each day, and you did it. And then I moved into this new company where your whole day was blocked with meetings. Everything was meetings. And it was also a lot bigger. It was harder to navigate. It was hard to find, okay, who do I need to talk to get this done or that done? There was a lot more red tape. Everything took way longer to do than in my previous role. So with workplace culture, you're dealing with some different expectations, maybe different ways of communicating, and also different leaders are going to have their own rules. So even within the same company, you might have one group where the leadership micromanages. You might have another leader in another department that, come and go as you please. As long as your work is done, we're okay with that.
Yeah. How did that work, the whole, in your previous, how did you just know what you had to do?
Okay, so good question. So when I had first started, I actually shadowed the woman that I was going to be working with for the first few weeks. So it was really a great training ground because I'm very much learn by doing. And so I would shadow her and she'd show me a bunch of stuff, and then we'd switch it where I was at my own desk and she sat with me, so that way if I had questions she was right there, and then I was kind of left to my own devices, but if I had questions I could go get her, and then pretty soon I was just kind of doing it. In a virtual environment, it really needs to be kind of the same thing where people need to feel like it's okay to ask questions and come to you and feel like your door is open, because there's nothing worse than starting a job and you don't want to bother people and you're kind of spinning your wheels when all it would take is a simple question to someone. And for me, it shouldn't matter whether it's a virtual environment or if you're in a brick and mortar building. It just shouldn't matter. People, especially when you're new, should be able to drop in whenever they have a question, so that it relieves that stress and they get up to speed so much faster.
Right. That's a that's a cultural aspect from within the company, but it also links to, I guess, as you were saying, from one company to another, it's different. Depends on how hierarchical the different companies are. Also depends if one is smaller than the other. In a small environment, everybody's used to getting their hands dirty and collaborating. The bigger the environment, the more silos, the more you need. You were talking about having to be in meetings all day. I mean, if all the companies I worked in were a bit like that, but one in particular I can think of, because the culture was one of consensus. And so there was always 50 people invited to meetings because everybody had to be okay with everything. And that led to a lot of inefficiency. The first tip I would bring up is spend some time understanding what the key challenges, needs, and of any other team or this person's way of working are, and what you can contribute. So having an outward mindset in terms of it's not just about people adapting to my way, it's also we adapt to them. And this is particularly heightened when you're talking about different cultures, as in different ethnic cultures, languages being spoken in the same company. I have some funny anecdotes that bring us to that. But,
Please share.
but the first key example was really to try and understand. And this is something we don't do much because we're so engulfed in our, especially in the HQs, the headquarters, you know, the sort of main offices, we tend to be engulfed in our global roles, and then the local people have other needs and we don't spend enough time trying to understand them.
Yeah, just the jargon and slang and yeah.
Acronyms also. Acronyms can
acronyms are big.
And big companies are so full of acronyms. We have big words, you know, even just for titles, we have big words.
So, I mean, I think one of the big takeaways I had was just not to make assumptions, because I think most people come from a good place. It's nobody's trying to upset the other person or upstage them. And I think, you know, if we go into things with an open mind, not taking things personally, we all have to work together and learn each other's different ways of speaking. And like you said, it's hard because we're so used to talking with our slang and whatever, and kind of slowing down and being patient with one another.
So to help, tools are just to make things clear, especially before, during, and after meetings. You know, what's the meeting about? What's the agenda? Who's there? Why? What are their roles and responsibilities?
Absolutely.
Teams have been agreed by when, and kind of some flexibility around, if not possible, please write back to us or let us know by this time that this isn't going to be feasible, you know. And that also helps in case if I haven't understood and I put this on the minutes of the meeting, somebody can say, you know, on a side note, actually this. Right?
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. Well, I think, I mean, we could talk about this all day because there's just so many examples.
And so we'll keep talking about it some more. We'll probably come up with some more deep subjects, but those are the key points. Were do have face-to-face, do be clear on roles and responsibilities, meetings, agendas, follow-ups, dates. Do spend some time understanding the needs and challenges and how you can contribute to other people. What else, Carol?
I would just open communication.
Yeah. No assumptions, we said. Yeah.
Yes.
And I would take back the summary of what we were saying before as designing the alliance. Like design how you want to be together over and over. Something needs to be correct it with patience. Because it's only through experiencing. It's one thing to design it and then go, you have to stick to it. But sometimes it doesn't work out. So being flexible enough.
Right. It should be a living document where let's see if it works. Yeah.
And there we go. So those are these week's tips. Hope you enjoyed them. And we'll come back probably with some more cultural differences. And also how to create intimacy in virtual teams. So how to create those coffee machine moments in virtual teams.
Yeah, the building relationships is tough. That's tough face to face, you know. But yeah, in a virtual environment, definitely more challenging. So I'm looking forward to talking about that.
Great. So see you next week from Carol and me. See ya.
Bye, everybody.